Hi guys, and welcome to this episode of the Happy Knitting Podcast. My name is Julia and I'm coming to you from Germany. Today is Saturday, the 8th of July 2017. I'm so glad that you're joining me today for this podcast episode. It's been 2 weeks since I last recorded, and in all honesty, it might be another 3 until I record again. So today I'm just going to try to catch up with as much as I possibly can. I have so much stuff to talk about. I'm surrounded by yarn and fiber and prizes, and we'll just see how we go. It's already like 6:30 at night here, and so far the lighting has been good, so we'll just see how it goes, but yeah, whatever. If you haven't watched before, thank you so much for checking out my podcast. I really appreciate each and every one of you. And if you're coming back, thank you ever so much for sticking with my podcast, even though it hasn't been the most reliable podcast lately. So to jump right in, today I'll talk about administrative stuff, knit-alongs, finished objects, works in progress, acquisitions. I have a question to answer, or a couple of questions, and life in general. So I'm imagining it's going to be a quite long episode, but maybe we'll be cut short. We'll just see how it goes. So first of all, we have a Ravelry group called the Happy Knitting Podcast group on Ravelry, and that's where you can find all the threads for show notes, for knit-alongs, introduction threads, coupon codes, shameless self-promotion threads, and much more. And first of all, sorry to each and every one of you who has introduced yourself and I haven't answered. I have gotten so bad at that, and the other day I was just wondering who watches my podcast, and I was thinking it would be so nice to know more about the people who watch this podcast, and then I realized, well, I'm the one not answering the introductions thread anymore, so there goes that. So very sorry about that. I'll try to be better in the future, and I do appreciate you guys introducing yourself. We currently have a knit-along running, which is the CYS KAL, which stands for Celebrate Your Stash knit-along. So the idea is to use some of your precious stash yarn, something that's been in your stash for too long, something you didn't really know what to do with, or that you haven't dared to knit with. Just celebrate your stash with me and knit anything you want. And we only have a chatter thread for this one, so just post everything regarding your finished objects, works in progress, and chatter in that one thread. We have 2 prizes for that. I'm just looking for the card. Let's see. We have a beautiful project bag, and also a handmade handband from this company, which is Wild Woolly. She's in Canada, I believe. She sent me a project bag, which is really stunning. It's this one, in case you are new to the podcast. So that will go straight to the winner, and I will also be giving away this skein of yarn. This is a skein of Piratenwolle, who is a German indie dyer, and you all know how much I like to promote German yarns. This is colorway number 316. And with this, I'm also going to give away some stitch markers and needle holders from Knitting in France, who is Bogga, and she's from France. She's on Etsy. So those are the 2 prizes for that, and the knit-along runs until the 31st of July, so you have until then to enter for prizes. This is like my 5th cup of coffee today. I'm really addicted at the moment and drinking way more than I should be. Anyways, that's it for the knit-alongs. Let me just get that out of the way. And let's just move on to finished objects. So I have 2 finished objects to show you today. The first one is a pair of socks that Kai already wore, so I'm sorry about that. But these are the socks that I knit for him out of Wollmeise in their twin base, which is their 80/20 sock base. And the colorway is called Thriller. I won't give you more of a close-up because, like I said, he's been wearing them and I didn't have time to wash them in time for the podcast. But this is what they look like. They did really awesome pooling. You can see they're way too loose on the sock blocker because he has big feet and I don't have sock blockers for his size. I did a fish lips kiss heel and a stockinette sock. So not much more to say about these, except he loves them so much I had to basically tear them off his feet. And he doesn't want me to wash them because then he can't wear them anymore. So yeah, definitely a success on this one. My second finished object is one I only finished very recently, and that's this pair of socks. You might remember these. I just cast them on last time I podcast. And these are out of Kunis Wolle, who is a German indie dyer, and I don't have a tag, but it'll be linked in the show notes. And this is on her glitter sock base. So you can see this is very sparkly. She has different colorways with different sort of base colors, but they all have these rainbow speckles. So I absolutely love this. I actually have another skein in this exact colorway without sparkles, so Kai and I will have matching socks one day. But this is the first pair that I knit, and you can see it's a stockinette sock. I hope you can see how crazy sparkly it is. It's a really, really sparkly but still soft base. I really like it. And these I knit for the first time on 9-inch circulars. I used Adi Sockenwunder, which I'll talk more about later, but I used a 2.0 millimeter or size 0 US size sock needle, and then after knitting a tube, I inserted a afterthought heel. So you just knit a tube, and then I used circular needles, or magic loop I should say, for the afterthought heel and the toe. I absolutely love these. They turned out really well. You can see that one of them is much more rainbowy up here than the other one, but I don't care. I love them, and I will wear these a ton. So that's it for my finished objects, and we'll move straight into works in progress, of which I have many, and almost all of them are new cast-on, so that's always very exciting. So the only one that's not a new cast-on is this one, and I have a hoe. Actually, I'm so close to being finished with these. I'm calling these my Excuse Me socks because I'm using the leftovers from my Excuse Me shawl. So the yarns that I'm using are Woolen Vine in her Pandora colorway, which is this one, on her MCN base, and Das Mondschaf in her Rapture colorway. And you guys are probably sick of me hearing me talk about it because I keep on talking about these two colorways. But like I said, I used the leftovers to make another pair of socks because I had so much, and I really wanted to use up all of the Woolen Vine yarn. And the pattern that I used are the Times Square socks by Mina Phillip. It's her second to last pattern, or second to most recent pattern of her sock club, of her New York sock collection. And you can't see the patterning too much, but I still think it's super pretty. And as you can see, I did an afterthought heel with the Mondschaf colorway, as well as a contrasting cuff. So that's the first sock. I knit them toe up just so I could gauge more how much yarn I would have left. And the second one is pretty much done, except I need to put in the heel. So I've already cut the sock. I just need to actually knit the heel into the sock. So this is what it looks like before you put the afterthought heel in. So I should have this done pretty soon, and I'm really excited about these. I've never knit an MCN sock, so I'm very curious to see how they'll wear, but I think they're going to be amazing. So that's it. That's my first work in progress. Next, I think I'll show you my new cast-ons. So in here I have a really new exciting cast-on. It's a shawl that I've been wanting to knit for a while. It's the Kalara shawl by Amber O'Brien, I believe. I'll link it in the show notes in case I'm wrong. And it's a two-color shawl, and I've been all over my stash trying to pick the perfect yarn combination. And I picked this one, which I'm super happy about because this is Hedgehog Fibers in the colorway that I never remember. What's it called? It's one of the signature colorways, and I always forget the name. Fool's Gold, that's it. Hedgehog Fibers sock yarn in the Fool's Gold colorway. And this one is actually some really, really old stash. This is Baby Alpaca Silk by Drums, one of the first yarns that I've ever bought. And I didn't really know what to do with it because I cast on a couple of shawls with it but never finished them. Something was always wrong. I don't know how I feel about this base. It's really, really soft, but kind of, I don't know what's wrong with me. Anyways, this never got knit up, so I'm super excited to be using this for my Celebrate Your Stash Gal. And the shawl is knit, I guess, on the bias, you could say. So this is where I am with it. So as you can see, it's a striped shawl with this sort of one chevron going across. And I always thought that this is just a really pretty pattern. I really like the finished object pictures for this one, if you go check them out on Ravelry. And yeah, I just thought it would be a really great pattern to use a really fun, sort of bright colorway together with a more muted colorway, because I probably wouldn't wear an entire shawl out of this. But this way, I think it's really, really fun. And the combination of the Hedgehog Fibers yarn and the Baby Alpaca Silk, which is a blue one, just makes for a very drapey sort of fabric, so I really like the fabric. The other cast-ons that I've done are, of course, socks. So I cast on 2 pairs of socks. The first one that I cast on is using a yarn that I only recently got and showed in the podcast, maybe in the last episode even, and that is this yarn. And this is Somerset Yarns, who is a UK-based dyer, and the colorway is Midnight Rave, and it's on her BFL sock base. So I've knit on her merino sock base before and really enjoyed it, and this is the BFL, which I never really know how I feel about BFL sock yarns. And in the beginning I wasn't really enjoying it, but now that I've knit a bit with it, I actually really like it. So it's funny how sometimes it takes a while for the yarns to grow on you. So I'm knitting some vanilla socks, of course, for myself, and you can see how fun these are micro strapping. I actually saw the dyer behind behind Somerset Yarns knit up this exact colorway, and that convinced me to buy it because it just looked really, really fun when she was knitting it. And yeah, how awesome is this? So I'm knitting a stockinette sock, 20 rows of 2x2 rib and a stockinette sock, like I said, and I put in a fish lips conceal, which again did a really sort of fun patterning. So just to give you a close-up, this is what the colorway looks like. It's, like I said, just a super fun colorway to knit up, and I think the effect of it is really great. So I'm very happy with these, although I have kind of been neglecting these because I've been more feeling like knitting on my 9-inch circulars rather than magic loop. But yeah, I'm still enjoying them, and I'm looking forward to having these in my sock drawer because I think they'll be super, super fun. So that is my one sock cast on. The other one I cast on the other day because I just felt like casting something on recklessly, and I don't have that many works in progress, so I feel like that's okay. So after finishing my first socks using my 9-inch circular needle, I wasn't really sure how to go about it or how I felt about it. I knit the first sock, which were the black ones that I just showed you, and after that didn't really feel like knitting the second one. And I thought that after finishing these, I would just put those 9-inch circulars away for a while, but then somehow something clicked and I just really suddenly enjoyed it and felt like I was flying by with these socks. So I decided to cast on another pair using these needles. So these are the Adi Sockenwunder, which are the 9-inch circulars that have two different length needles. So let me try to show this to you here. You can see that one of them is much shorter than the other one. And because this one is quite long, when you have this one in your right hand while knitting, it makes it a whole lot more comfortable. So instead of knitting sort of like this, you can actually use your hands quite normally. So like I said, I'm really enjoying these. I'm using 2.0 millimeter. They don't have a 2.25, which is super sad. But honestly, my gauge is a little bit looser with these anyways, as seems to be the case with a lot of people. So it works out just fine. So the yarn that I cast on is, of course, from Shebot Garner, who I've talked about a million times because I love their yarn, especially her soft sock base. And this is the colorway Never Say Never, which always has me singing that song in my head for hours. And it's just such a fun colorway. I've had it in my stash for quite a while, and it just felt like the perfect time to cast it on. I really love how it's sort of pulling and micro striping, and it's just ridiculously fun. I did 15 rows of 2x2 rib at the top, and now I'm just knitting a tube, and the stitch marker is where I'm going to be putting in my afterthought heel, so I'm just knitting a tube, and then it'll be super easy to finish these later. So yeah, I'm super excited about these, and these are also great for travel knitting. I feel like the 9-inch circulars are the perfect travel knitting needles because you don't have to finish any rows, you can just pick up and knit, and you don't have to look at your knitting at all. So while we were traveling today, it was the perfect project to take along. So yeah, I'm super excited about these. Next, the only other things that I have on my needles are my blankets, and originally I wasn't going to show them to you, but I decided why not. So first of all, I have my second mitered square blanket, which is using the pattern by Kemper Ray, which is called the Coziest Memories, except I am doing 56 stitches instead of whatever she called for, and I'm using a 2.0 or US size 0 millimeter needle. So this is what this blanket looks like. So it's grown quite a bit. This is my second one, mind you. My first one's already finished. And to be honest, I have no idea when I showed this to you last or what squares I knew, but I'm pretty sure I showed you this one. So this is a yarn that I got from a lovely friend, and I have the tag somewhere, but I forgot. It was a 20-gram mini in the colorway Guropu. I believe, which was like a gray-purple mix, which is really awesome. This is Hedgehog Fibers, I think a potluck colorway, which I got as a mini as well as this one. And then the other day I put in my apple picking, which were the socks that I knit out of mustache yarns very recently. And last night I put in this colorway, which is Fine Fish Yarns, and Whatever Happened to Fairy Cakes, which I used in my The Girl from the Grocery Store shawl. And as you can see, I lost 2 yarn chickens, so I added in another bit of the colorful stripe from this yarn, which I think is actually really pretty. And right now I'm working in my yarn from Das Regenbogenschaf in the Pinter base, which was the one that she sent me to try, and I knit a pair of socks out of this, which is a Rami wool and silk blend. So that's where I am with this blanket, and I put it down for quite a while and picked it up again yesterday, and I'm actually quite enjoying it because I didn't really know what to knit on, so this is always a great project for that. Next, I also have my crochet blanket, which again I put down for a while and slowly am starting again. And it feels like everyone who knits this or who crochets this on a podcast, every single time they show it, they have like that much progress. And every time I show this to you, every couple of weeks I have like a row. So I'm sorry about that. But this is where I am with it. I'm not going to roll it up much further, but the last time I showed it to you, I was in this sort of reddish stripe right here, which is from Burrow and Soar, I believe, from the UK. Then I also added in the same mini skein that I just talked about before from the Fine Fish Yarns, which I showed you in my Mitered Square blanket. And this is beautiful yarn from Hedgerow Yarns. Don't ask me about the colorway, please. And now I'm adding in Flamingo Legs, which is the Stranded Dyeworks colorway that everyone loves. And I just finished a pair of socks out of that as well. So like I said, I'm working on this very, very slowly, but I'm still enjoying it. I changed from doing magic knots to doing a Russian join, and that seems to make it a whole lot easier, because I think the reason why I wasn't working on this was because I was changing colors every 2 rows, and I was doing magic knots, and it was just a big sort of pain in the bum. So now I just decided to just do the rows as long as I want. I'm not going to always do 2 rows. I'm just doing whatever I feel like, and instead, I'm just doing whatever I feel like, and I'm just using Russian joins, so I don't have to worry about ends, and I think it's going to make this a whole lot more enjoyable. So we'll see how this goes. I'm using the Attic 24 pattern that everyone seems to be using, and if you're wondering how many stitches I cast on and all that, it's all on my project page, because honestly I can't remember, but I did write it down. So that's it for my knit and crochet. I've also been bitten by the spinning bug again. As if you've been watching for a very long time, you know that I used to be spinning a lot, and then I completely stopped, and I don't know what happened, but I have been really wanting to spin sock yarn again, and somehow I didn't really want to spend the money on buying fiber, and I didn't have any fiber, and it went like that for quite a while. But I finally got some fiber, which I'll show you in a second. So now I'm spinning again, and I'm super, super excited about this. My coffee is really cold and gross. Let me show you the fiber that I got. My spinning is still on my bobbin, so I'm just going to show you what I'm doing with it. This is fiber from Elfenwolle, whose tag should be here somewhere. Oh well, I'll just show you one of her tags. Elfenwolle is a German indie dyer of fiber. She's on Instagram, and she dyes the most beautiful colorways. So I just ordered a couple of her merino nylon colorways, bases I should say, to spin some sock yarn. So the one that I'm currently spinning is this one. I have no idea about the, hang on, maybe I do. There we go. This is called Crazy Witch. And I just thought it was fun to spin, and this is my last fiber, bundle of fiber. I split the braid into 4 bundles like this, and now I'm just spinning them, and I'm going to do a 3-ply or a chain ply, and these should be super, super fun sort of self-strapping socks. So I'm excited about that. The other 2 colorways or braids that I got were this one. This is called Ghost of Elder. Again, merino nylon blend. So this one is the last one that I got. This one is called Beach Party. So this really got back my spinning mojo. So what I'm thinking is I'm just going to be ordering lots of fun merino nylon colorways in the future and spin sock yarn, and that'll make me a super happy spinner, because I feel like I kind of put myself under pressure to spin other things and I wasn't really enjoying it and I wasn't really getting anywhere with it. So now that I'm spinning sock yarn again, I'm super excited and super happy, and it's working out really well. The last acquisition that I have to show you is the monthly yarn club from Nicole C. Mendes. So if you're in the club and you don't want to be spoiled, look away. But I've had it for a week, so you should have gotten it if you're in Europe at least. So I will show it now. The dyer, like I said, is Nicole C. Mendes, who does amazing self-strapping colorways. And the colorway for this one is called I Love Tour de Fleece. It's in her 80-20 merino polyamide blend. And this is what it looks like. I think it's super, super fun. It's exactly what I wanted from this club. It's fun colors and out of my comfort zone a little bit. And yeah, I love this club. I feel like I'm going to be joining it again after this round. This was the second shipment. I already loved the first one. So if the third one is equally great, I'm absolutely sold on this, and I want all of her self-strapping yarn. So yeah, that's it for my acquisitions. And all I have left to talk about is I want to answer some questions and then talk about life in general. So one viewer sent me a message with quite a couple of questions. And just in general, if you do have questions, feel free to either message me or you can just post them in the Ask Away thread in the group. She, like I said, sent me a lot of questions. I'm not sure if you want your name to be mentioned on the podcast. I will answer some of them. I tend to be very bad at answering technical questions like how do you knit your socks or how do you join the round or something like that. So for that, I would ask you to please just check out tutorials or patterns or books, because I'm just not very good at that sort of stuff, like explaining that stuff, and I feel like there are plenty of resources for that. But I will answer two questions. The first one she asked was, how do you tension your yarn? Because I tension it quite fast, and tensioning your yarn can be kind of tricky. So I knit continental style, so I have no idea if it works different for English style knitting. So take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. But I learned to knit my just tensioning by wrapping your yarn around your finger once. I know lots of people in my family who knit and they wrap around like 2 or 3 times, which makes it easier to tension in the first place. But then what happens is you need to re-wrap, and that actually in the long term isn't very good for your tension at all. So the way that I hold my yarn, and this is going to be very hard to show, and I'm not sure if it's going to be helpful, but I literally, when I knit, I wrap my yarn around my finger like this. And then while I'm knitting, I just kind of let it slide through. So as you can see, it just kind of goes like this. You know what I mean? So I have some control of it by leading it through my hand like that, but I'm mainly tensioning just by wrapping it around my finger. I'm not sure if you're going to see this while I'm knitting, but and I have really sticky hands today as well because it's super hot. But can you see I'm not needing to re-wrap, whereas if I have my yarn tangled. If you tension by wrapping around your finger a couple of times, you can knit a couple of stitches, but then you'll get much closer, and then you'll actually need to re-wrap your yarn, which is not a very efficient way of knitting. The second question that I want to answer is what kind of ribbing do you do, and what kind of ribbing feels and fits best? So there are 3 kinds of ribbing that I'm going to be talking about today, even though there are more ways of knitting ribbing, and I'm talking mainly about socks. So the 3 methods that I use quite often. This is a 2x2 rib, so you knit 2, you purl 2, you knit 2, you purl 2, and you just keep doing that, and this is what a 2x2 rib looks like. And this is probably my favorite method because it's quite fast, and it's also very, very stretchy. So I really like the feel, I really like the fit of it, and I actually really like knitting it as well. Sometimes when, just to mix it up, I do a 1x1 ribbing, which, let me get a sock to show you. So you just, instead of, this is the worst yarn to show this to you, I'm so sorry. Instead of knitting 2 and purling 2, you knit 1, you purl 1, you knit 1, you purl 1. And that also creates a quite stretchy ribbing, but personally, I don't like the look of it that much, and I'm really sorry to be showing this to you on such a dark sock. I should have thought that through a bit more. But you can see it works well as well, but it doesn't have that sort of definition that a 2x2 ribbing has. Another ribbing, which is also quite popular and probably the most pretty ribbing, is this kind of ribbing, which is a twisted rib. So for a twisted rib, you twist your knit stitches and then either also twist your purl stitches or do your purl stitches as normal. So I usually, when I do a twisted ribbing, I just twist the knit stitches. So you knit one through the back loop and then you purl one, and then you knit one through the back loop and then you purl one. And as you can see, the effect that you get through this is really stunning. I think no other ribbing is as pretty as this one is. In terms of stretchiness, it's still quite stretchy, but to me, I feel like it doesn't hold its shape as well. And I don't knit it all the time just because I find it very time consuming and also kind of, it makes my hands cramp. So I do it sometimes, but not all the time, but I would probably say that that is the prettiest ribbing, at least in my opinion. And the socks that I knit for, pulled out to show you, by the way, are the Zinshaus socks, which are by Helene Zechner. So yeah, I hope that answered your question. Like I said, it's pretty much up to you what kind of ribbing you prefer and what kind of ribbing suits your knitting style and your requirements for your socks. Generally, I would say the longer you knit your ribbing, the more comfortable and the more stretchy it will be. So this, I think, is only like a 10 or a 12 row ribbing. Maybe it's 15 rows. I'm not going to count. But I usually like to do a 20 row ribbing because that just also affects the stretchiness. And as you can see, this one, the ribbing doesn't really cinch it in very much, whereas, where did my sample go? I'm so all over the place today. But I'm just going to take this off the sock blocker. But this is also a 2x2 rib again, and you can see how that is sort of more tight, even though this pattern is a rib pattern, so it tends to be tighter anyways. So yeah, it's very much up to you and your knitting style, and certain patterns sort of lend themselves to a certain kind of ribbing as well. Like for example, this one makes sense because you have twisted stitches along the sock as well to continue those into the ribbing. But yeah, just play around with whatever rib you're comfortable with. You can also try a 3x2 rib or 4x2 rib or a 3x1 rib. There's different ways, and the idea is just by a combination of knit stitches and purl stitches, your fabric will become more stretchy. So just try and see whatever you like. And if you're a knitter and you would like to also offer up your opinion, feel free to do that again in the episode thread. So yes, thank you so much for asking those questions. The other ones I have already kind of answered and or recommended sources. I'm not sure why I'm drinking this coffee. It's really gross. I'm so all over the place today. I'm really sorry about that, guys. And the fact that my camera is playing up today is not helping either. But anyways, we got through the knitting part. I've shown you my acquisitions, at least kind of. And I'm just going to talk about life in general at the end now. So if you're only interested in the knitting, feel free to just watch again next week. Thank you so much for watching. And if you do want to stick around and listen to me talk about nothing at all, feel free to stick around. So a few things have happened since we talked last, because it's been a while, like I said. Last weekend I couldn't record because we were actually gone for pretty much the entire weekend. In general, the last 3 weeks have been incredibly stressful for both of us. Kai had a major thing at work, and my work just tends to be crazy without any reason more than that. So yeah, it's just been incredibly stressful. And then last weekend we drove up to my parents' place, or my family's place, because A, it was my sister's 16th birthday, and B, my dad has a big sort of garden party every year. So I try to make it to that because most of the people are there. I only see them once a year anyways, so it's always quite nice, even though we had bad luck with the weather. It's been crazy hot and summery pretty much the entire time, except for the weekend that he had his party. So instead of having it in the garden, we had to have it in the garage, and it was still nice, but that it was a bit of a bummer. But anyway, so we spent that weekend away, and Elisa, my sister, also had her American exchange student, so everything was quite busy, let's just say it that way. It was really fun though as well. I got to see a lot of people that I hadn't seen in a long time, and family was coming in at the same day as well, so it was all over the place, but it was quite fun. And then of course it was back to work, and I actually wasn't even sure if I was going to record this week, but I'm so happy that I found some time, because today we actually spent the day in a region called Allgäu, which is about 1.5 hours from here. I've talked about this many times before, but this time we didn't. Usually we go there for a couple of days at least for a holiday, but this time actually Kai's sister and her husband and her baby, they've been staying there for a couple of weeks. They came to visit on their way down there a few weeks back, and have been staying in their little apartment down there for a while, and then Kai's parents decided to join them and come down for a week or two from the north of Germany as well. So they invited us to come down and have a sort of relatively spontaneous family gathering. So that was actually really nice. It is quite a bit of a drive to do one time for just for one day or a couple of hours, but we decided, well, his sister usually lives in London, so we don't see them very often, and now, especially with the baby, we want to have take any opportunity to see her. So the little girl, she's 4 months now, and she was really, really cute, and we had a fun time. We had a barbecue and just hung out with the entire family, which was really fun. And like I said before, I took my knitting, so I got a few rows done on my socks at the same time. So that was lovely, except for the fact that it's really hot and I'm overheating constantly. So tomorrow I'm really looking forward to not doing a whole lot besides meeting some friends, so I guess that's not really doing a whole lot. No. Blah, blah, blah. It's not exactly doing nothing, but we're meeting friends tomorrow, and then next weekend, like right now in 7 days, we'll already be in France. So I'm super, super excited about that. We are both so ready for a holiday. But that means that the next 2 weekends will be away, which is also the reason why I really wanted to get out a podcast episode this week, because it might be another 3 weeks until I podcast again, which is crazy. But yeah, I'm looking forward to a holiday, and if you do want to kind of stay in touch and see what's going on, the best way to do that is through Instagram. I've kind of been rediscovering Instagram stories, so I might use that a little bit more to just share snippets of what we're doing and what we're up to, because it just seems like a very, very easy way to share fun things, and a little bit easier than posting a photo every time. So do join me on Instagram if you're interested in that. My handle is the Happy Knitting Podcast. Another thing that's kind of very embarrassing and sad is I've kind of known that I have terrible vision for quite a while. I used to have glasses when I was younger, and then outgrew them, and apparently it was fine for a while, but for about a year or something now, I've really been having difficulties reading. So the other day when we were at my family's place, I picked up my mom's reading glasses because she got new reading glasses, and I put them on just for fun, and I was like, oh my gosh, there are so many things I can suddenly see and read, and it just blew my mind. Because I always thought that, you'd notice when you're going blind, but apparently you don't. So embarrassingly enough, now I have reading glasses, and I'm not sure how I feel about them, and I'm still getting used to them, but I'm hoping that it'll make working a little bit easier, because I have to concentrate very hard to read otherwise, so that way it might be a little bit less exhausting as well. So that's quite sad, but Kai calls me a granny now, but I have my reading glasses. Yeah, I still think it's hilarious. I'm trying to think what else happened. I obviously have been doing a lot of knitting, as you can see. I've kind of been rethinking what I want to be doing and where I want to be going with my podcast, and to be honest, I still haven't really found the answer to that yet. I feel like ever since I started working full-time, I've just been pushing through to keep going the podcast the way I was before. And it's been proving more and more difficult and also stressful, and I really don't want the podcasting thing to turn into something I need to do, which sometimes it feels like, and I really want it to be fun. So I've been thinking, and I'm still thinking about doing some changes to it, but I don't really know what I want to change about it either. I've thought about, having it less structured and just kind of talking about whatever, whenever I have time, but then I think that's just going to make it more rambly and more all over the place. And I actually generally do like things to have a structure or some kind of structure. So the same thing goes for recording less frequently. I'm not sure if only recording every second or third week is going to make it less stressful, or then it's just more complicated because I have more stuff to talk about. And the same thing goes for knit-alongs. I'm super torn between all these knit-along ideas that I have in my head that I really want to do, and also at the same time I feel like maybe I should pause and knit-along for a while just until things calm down. So I'm kind of stuck at the moment. I don't really know which way to go. I hate that I'm being not as active on Instagram, and I hate the fact that I'm not as responsive on Ravelry. I do want to remedy that at some point, but at the same time, there's only that much time, and I really don't want to, sacrifice spending time with friends and family and my boyfriend and just, winding down after work for doing that sort of thing as well. So I'm not really sure where this podcast is going to be going. I do want to keep it going for sure. Don't worry. I'm just kind of rearranging and readjusting what I want this podcast to be and what kind of content I want to be sharing. So what I'm saying is essentially I don't really know what I want to do, but there might be some changes in the podcast. I hope you guys will be just with me for that, and I might just try some different things and might try different sort of weekly, bi-weekly, monthly episodes and just see what works for me, because I really find that it needs to work for me, and I'm sure you guys will understand. So in the same note, my show notes. I've been terrible at posting show notes, and I will do show notes for this podcast episode, but does anyone actually read the show notes? I'd be really interested, and if you don't, please just tell me you don't. I'm not going to be offended. I just don't want to be putting time into writing show notes when there's no real use for them. I'm doubting whether there's a whole lot of use, because you can find all my project pages on Ravelry anyways, and I do keep my project pages very updated. So if you were, for example, looking for these socks, you wouldn't necessarily need show notes. You could just go to my profile and look for that project. But like I said, I just really would be interested in if you guys want show notes, if you need them, or if you really don't care. Because if you don't care, I might just simplify that as well, because I'm all about the simplifying. So again, I would love feedback about that and whatever else pops to your mind, and I'd be really curious. And I think with that, I've rambled on enough, even though apparently it's not as long as I thought this podcast was going to be. So I guess that's a good thing. So in terms of what's going to happen with the podcast next week, I have no idea. Maybe if I finish work sometime early this week, like this coming week, I might try to squeeze out an episode at night and publish it when we're away. If I don't find the time, please don't be offended. Then I'll just record when we get back, which will probably be the weekend after we get back, so that'll be in 3 weeks. So like I said, I'm not really sure what I'm going to be doing about that. If I have time, I'll record a little something, either an episode or maybe just another rambly sort of topical episode like the one I did on my knitting story. If you have any recommendations for that sort of thing as well, just get in touch. I would love to hear your ideas. Also, talking about my knitting story video, I was totally amazed with the feedback I got from that. I heard quite a few people who said that they watched it even twice or something, which is just insane for me, but thank you so much for the positive feedback. I really, really appreciate it. So that's been a lot of talk about the podcast and all over the place as usual. So I'm just thankful for you guys that you watch this podcast, that you keep up with my craziness and my changes and me being all over the place. I really appreciate that you watch this podcast, and I'm just so happy to have this channel of communication with you guys. I get so much joy out of this podcast, and that's because I'm not talking to a camera, I'm talking to you guys. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'd love to hear from you. You can join the Ravelry group if you want to join in the conversation. That's probably the easiest way to get in touch. And until I see you again, happy knitting, have a great couple of weeks, enjoy your yarns, and yeah, I hope you have a wonderful summer or winter if you're in the southern hemisphere. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!